While I'm getting stuff set up, go ahead and turn to Matthew chapter 2. I am not as good as Eric. I don't have a cool little video to take up your time while I'm doing this. I apologize. Please return next week for our regularly scheduled pastor. I do want to take a second to thank the worship team very much. It's a very delicate balance whenever you're following God, trying to do what you're supposed to do, between the intellect, the wisdom, the knowledge, and the passion. And trying to get the two of those together can be hard sometimes. But the passion is evident. It's there, and that's wonderful, and I love that part. Now it's my job to take care of the rest of the stuff. Thanks. All right, so go ahead and turn to Matthew chapter 2. And yes, the whole chapter. I'm going to read the whole chapter. One, context. Two, because it all kind of pertains to what we're talking about today. So I'm going to read the whole chapter, say a few words, and then we'll be done. So, Matthew chapter 2. Now after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the king, behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, "Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we saw his star when it rose, and have come to worship him." When Herod the king heard this, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. He assembled all the chief priests and scribes of the people. He inquired of them where Christ was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it is written by the prophet, 'And you, O Bethlehem, in the land of Judea, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For from you shall come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel.' Then Herod summoned the wise men secretly to ascertain from them what time the star had appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, 'Go and search diligently for the child. And when you have found him, bring me word that I too may come and worship him.' After listening to the king, they went on their way. And behold, the star that they had seen when it rose went before them until it came to rest over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced exceedingly with great joy. And going into the house, they saw the child with Mary his mother, and they fell down and worshipped him. Then, opening their treasures, they offered him gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And being warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they departed to their own country by another way. Now, when they had departed, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, 'Rise, take the child and his mother, and flee to Egypt, and remain there until I tell you. For Herod is about to search for the child to destroy him.' And he rose and took the child and his mother by night, and departed to Egypt, and remained there until the death of Herod. This was to fulfill what the Lord had spoken by the prophet, 'Out of Egypt I called my son.' Then Herod, when he saw that he had been tricked by the wise men, became furious. He sent and killed all the male children in Bethlehem and in all that region who were 2 years old or under, according to the time that he had ascertained from the wise men. Then was fulfilled what was spoken by the prophet Jeremiah. A voice was heard in Ramah, weeping and loud lamentation. Rachel weeping for her children. She refused to be comforted because they are no more. But when Herod died, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt, saying, 'Rise, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel, for those who sought the child's life are dead.' And he rose and took the child and his mother, and went to the land of Israel. But when he had heard that Archelaus was reigning over Judah in place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. And being warned in a dream, he withdrew to the district of Galilee. and he went and lived in a city called Nazareth, so that what was spoken by the prophets might be fulfilled, saying that he would be called a Nazarene. That's not your normal happy holiday story, but it is very well connected to what happens at what we're celebrating at Christmas. A little bit of housekeeping information to start off with. This is a different story than the Nativity. The wise men were not there at the manger scene. We have all these images and things like this, but it's one of those things, according to the text, they weren't there. If we'll go through, verse 1 says this would happen after Jesus was born, not when Jesus was born. Verse 9 and 10 refers to Jesus as the child, not the babe, not the infant, not the little baby in a manger, nothing like that. This is the child. Verse 11 says that they didn't go to the manger scene, they didn't go to the inn, they didn't go to where we think of as the nativity, they went to the house. So Mary and Joseph and Jesus were in a house at this point. Verse 16 goes on to talk about whenever Herod went out to trying to kill this Messiah that was going to threaten his position, he told them, kill every child 2 years or younger. So giving him some leeway and everything, Jesus may have been, around 1.5, 2 years old, somewhere in there. And that's based on Herod's math whenever he figured out how old Jesus would be based on when the star first appeared. So that's just, it's one of those things for biblical accuracy to keep in mind and be aware there are dangers associated with this. If you teach this to your children, there are consequences. I have a sister who, whenever she came home from college, made it her mission to remove the wise men from the manger scene wherever it was set up at church and relocate it to another part of the church just to make sure we were being biblically accurate. This past year, I'm setting up our little manger scene over here, and we got wise men, so okay, I'm going to set them over here on the other side of the room. Unfortunately, a child goes to reach for something not quite tall enough to get it, and it falls off, and now we have a headless wise man. So, there are dangers. Another thing, we don't know how many wise men there were. The text only says the 3 different gifts. You could have had 5 guys giving gold, 2 guys giving frankincense, and 1 guy giving. We don't know how. We have the song, "We Three Kings," and that's ingrained in our mind, but that's all based on the different types of gifts that were given. So there could have been more than just 3. There could have been, I guess, less than just 3, but we know they give 3 different types of gifts. And this is one thing, it's only found here in Matthew 2. The Gospels, in case you didn't know, there are 4 different Gospels that start off the New Testament. All of them are talking about Jesus' life. Some give a little bit more detail than others. There are some stories that overlap, and you have the same stories in different Gospels. This is one of those that's only found here in Matthew's Gospel, just as a side note for you. One of the interesting things that I really liked about this verse, this passage as I was thinking about it, is the fact that what God does for this situation. God provides for a need before the need was even known. He makes sure that he sets up, and here are these wise men, they're giving out all these gifts, some monetary gifts, but what Joseph doesn't know is, hey, here in the next day, we're going to have to go to Egypt. Now, they had just, a couple years ago, they had just come from where they were to Bethlehem because of the census, and now they're having to relocate again down to Egypt. If you move more than twice in a couple years' time, it takes a lot. There's a lot to that. There's a lot of expense to that. There's a lot of expense to going to a different country where you don't know anybody and being able to be secure and supply for your family. And see, this is God taking care of that. This is God setting all that stuff up before Joseph even knows it's going to happen. That's a wonderful thing. We have even before that, how long did it take for God How long did it take for the wise men to get from point A to point B? We don't know. God's already orchestrating things in the background saying, hey, you know what? Joseph's going to need this, so the wise men are going to go from here to there. I'm going to show them a star. They're going to have some kind of knowledge of what's going on. They're going to make this trek, and they're going to get there right in time for this all to happen. And again, this is God. God works on a different level than us. I can't figure out what I'm going to do tomorrow, much less hundreds of years down the road. And God's got all this stuff set up before creation ever happened. This is nothing for him. This is the amazement of God. Again, those gifts that the wise men give, those could have funded all the travel to Egypt, all the setup whenever they get there, all those things. Have you ever received an unexpected gift only to have a need pop up just a short time later? We have had that happen in our lives, and I'm sad to say I didn't treat it the way it should have been treated. We would get some kind of money for something. I don't even know what, from various different places. Just money kind of pops up. They say, oh, great, that's wonderful. We can pay this bill off. We can do this. We can kind of get ahead a little bit. And then we need new tires. Or then, a kid gets sick. Or then something happens and that money's gone. Now, in my mind, it's like we just can't get ahead. I just can't move past where we're at right now. Instead, what I should be saying is, God, you knew that I was going to need this before I ever even thought about getting it, and you provided for this. Instead of thanking God for his provision, I'm complaining because I'm not where I want to be. I'm not doing what I want to do. And that all is about, how do we react to God's provision? He gives us something that we need even before we need it. And then we find out that's what it was for, we get upset about it. I get upset about it. It's one of those things. It's extremely important for us to keep the right perspective. We have to realize that anything that we get is a gift from God. And just because we get it for a short time, God knew that ahead of time. That wasn't our stuff to begin. Nothing we have is ours to begin with. We don't earn anything, even by our greatest effort. It is God's provision. It is God's grace we're able to work. It's God's grace that gives us these things. It's God's grace that allows us to be able to do the things that we do. And instead of thanking him for that, how do we feel sometimes? A lot of times, I'm not getting what I'm owed. I'm not getting my due. I watched Charlie Brown Christmas special last night. I'm a little late, I'm sorry. But that was one of the lines in there. I just want my fair share. Whenever Charlie Brown's little sister is giving him the list for the letter to write out to Santa Claus, I just want my fair share. I just want what's owed to me. We don't want what's owed to us. Based on our actions, what is owed to us is torment, is hell. We don't want that. And what we really want is God's grace. Everything that God gives us is grace. Every good thing that we have is grace. The mercy part, mercy is God not sending us to hell. But everything that makes our life good is grace. And we should be thankful for both of those things. This holiday season, it's extremely difficult for me to keep that right perspective. You get caught up in the presents and the gifts and the activities and the travel and all the things. My mom, before she passed, she loved giving gifts. She loved giving gifts. She loved being able to watch people open up the things that she bought. To the point where we had numbers. We were not as many as we are now. We weren't 20 then, but we were a good-sized family. We had 4 kids, spouses, a few kids here and there, and the gifts would be numbered because she wanted to watch everybody open up the gifts, which was great for me because I like getting the gifts. And there's a transition that I struggle with making, that it's not about the things that I get. It's not about the things that are given to me. I should appreciate and be grateful for everything, but at the same time, it's about me sharing what I have been given and propelling that sense of grace that God gives us. Within this story, there is a rabbit hole of determinism that I fall into. My brain works differently than most people. There you go. It's what I was waiting for. And so whenever I read this story, my brain's going, okay, so if the wise men hadn't gone to Herod, would there have been a need to flee to Egypt? Because Herod's clueless. Herod doesn't know anything about Jesus until the wise men show up, and then he starts doing all this research. By the way, ladies, this is a biblical evidence why men don't ask for directions. See, we read the story. You see what happened afterwards? I mean, bad stuff happens when you ask for directions, which is why we don't do it. So there's all these questions about, okay, well, if that had happened, and this happened, and that happened, and you can go down this really dark rabbit hole of, okay, what caused this and what caused that. At the end of the day, you've got to trust that God knows what he's doing. Because I don't, and I bet you money you don't. Half the time, I grew up thinking, I reach a certain level and I become an adult and then I have all this knowledge and I know exactly what I'm doing and I know where I'm heading and I have all this stuff. No. In my head, I still feel like I'm 18 years old in high school. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying the best I can. Sometimes I succeed, sometimes I fail. But yeah, there's not this consciousness that I attain that's like, oh, I know what's going on now. I know how life works. At the end of the day, I've just got to trust God. That he knows what's going on when I don't. There's these interesting passages through this, there's these interesting references through this passage about these different prophecies that are fulfilled. He's going to be called out of Egypt, and this is why this happened, to fulfill this prophecy, and this prophecy is fulfilled by that. God knows what is going to happen before it happens. He knew what was going to happen before he ever created anything. And so God's omniscience is put into practice with prophecy. It's not a chicken and the egg kind of thing with God. It's like, well, this is the way it is because I know it's the way it is. This is the way I set it up to do. All right. Here's a really good, cool quote for this. God is the greatest composer ever. But instead of composing symphonies with music, he composes reality with souls. Let that sink in for a second. Let that marinate. Eric and I have ongoing conversations about free will and God's sovereignty. And we're not on opposite sides of the fence, but we're not, there's some things we discuss and whatnot. The more and more I've talked with him, the more I realize the things I thought were just clear cut, this is the way it is, aren't really that way. And that's okay. It's frustrating for me because I like to understand things. I like to know how this works and how that works and why God does this and why God does that. But again, at the end of the day, I've got to trust God. It's messy. There is no one system that sits down and explains this is how God works, because it is beyond our understanding. And that's great, that's good. You don't want me to understand God, because that would mean I'm God, and nobody wants me to be God, right, Charlie? Right? Just making sure. Nobody wants me to be God. I don't want me to be God. And so we have to understand that God understands free will. He understands the choices we'll make. He understands all these things, and he weaves all of that together. A symphony is, again, beyond my understanding. How a human being can sit here and take this sound with this instrument and have this instrument over here come in at the same time with not the same sound, but a different sound that complements that, and put all these different things together and have this beautiful piece of music. But if you just hear this one little piece, it sounds weird. It doesn't sound great. But you put it together with all these other things. Think about that on a reality scale, because that's what God does. He takes your life and your life and your life and your free will choice and weaves it into his sovereignty, because God is always sovereign. I will never say God is not sovereign. Yes, God is always sovereign.
Yes, he is. Thank God for sovereignty.
Absolutely. Because you know what? If it's left up to us, we're going to mess it up every day. But there's also our will in there. And there's also that. But you know what? He knows how to work with that. He knows how to work with the trumpets and the trombones and the drums and the drums over here, drums and the piano and the guitar and the oboe. I feel like I'm an oboe some days because I'm this weird instrument nobody understands. But he knows how to work it all together. He knows the life experience that every one of us is going to have. And that is all wrapped up in his plan and his will. And that's something that we should just be blown away by. That should make us kind of be a little bit afraid. And it's okay to be afraid of God, because he's way past anything that we could ever think of. Within Jesus' ministry and his life and everything, even in this early time, we see a danger of popularity. God knows how people are going to react to the arrival of the Messiah, of Jesus. He's going to change everything. And some people are not going to like that because they like the way things are. There are several places through Jesus' ministry and his life that he tells people, shh, don't say anything, be quiet. First one is in John 2, whenever he's talking to his mom at this wedding feast in Cana. That's where the whole water to wine thing comes in. He tells his mom, I don't want to do this right now. It's not my time yet. I want to hold off on that. Because he knows what that public acknowledgement, he knows what the popularity is going to lead to. There's the story of the leper in Mark chapter 1, where he heals him, and this guy is very happy. Leprosy is an awful, awful disease, in case you didn't know. Read up on it. It's terrible. You don't want leprosy. And God just like that. Not a treatment plan, not, radiation, nothing. No. He's just healed. And he's so happy and he's so grateful that he wants to tell everybody. And Jesus tells him, keep it quiet. Don't tell anybody. Keep it down. There's a deaf man. The deaf man wants to tell everybody what Jesus has done because now he can hear and now he can talk. It's amazing. It's wonderful. Mark chapter 7, Jesus tells him, shh, it's okay. Go ahead. You're good. Even demons, whenever Jesus, in Luke chapter 4, whenever Jesus is dealing with this demonic possession, the demons are crying out and kind of proclaiming, yes, he is the Lord. He is God. And God tells him, no, you need to stop talking now. So, when we are confronted with Christ, whenever Christ is put out there to everybody, there are some negative reactions. And so that kind of leads me to this last point. How do we react when we're confronted with Christ? Because we got two instances in this story. We've got the wise men who, whenever they're confronted with the possibility of this king that is being proclaimed by a star, they're amazed. This is wonderful to them. And they go, and these kings, these wise men, these very high up people worship a child. We don't do that. That's not in human default mode. Whenever you're so smart and you're so high, then everybody should placate to me and everyone should almost worship me. These guys understood this is important. They probably didn't even have all the details. They probably didn't know all the things, but yet they knew enough to know this is someone that we need to worship. On the flip side, Herod. Herod is threatened by Jesus. And in doing some research and everything, this wasn't anything out of the ordinary for Herod. Killing a kid, he'd done that before. Anything that threatened his position, not going to deal with it, not going to put up with it, it's going to be done. Well, let's put that on ourselves. Jesus Christ will threaten things that we hold dear. He will threaten our comfort. He will threaten our pride. He will threaten the way we want things to be. And how do we deal with that? How do we react to that whenever Jesus is sitting there saying, you know what? I love you, but you're not doing right. You need to pay attention, and you need to focus. And you need to think about what I'm telling you. And you need to decide, are you going to follow me? And everything's good. Or are you going to go your own way? And that's what we need to decide in our every day, every minute, every hour. Am I going to follow Christ? Or am I going to do my own thing, which leads to a very dark place? As the worship team comes back up, if you will join me in prayer. Dear God, I thank you for this holiday season. I thank you for what we celebrate. I thank you for the newness and rebirth of the new year. I thank you that we can use this as a starting point. I ask that you help each and every one of us to deeply evaluate the way we do life. Help us look and see, okay, when I've got the decision between God's way and my way, which am I going to choose? Help us understand those decisions whenever we're faced with them. Help us see that the things that we think of as unimportant, those are foundational things that will change our entire lives. I ask that you help us to understand fully and completely what we need to do for you, what you want of us. I ask these things in Jesus' name.